Welcome back to the channel, everybody. On today's video, we are going to be looking at a tire for a leak. This guy does a lot of transporting. He's a car hauler, so he definitely does not want to just take this anywhere to get it plugged up, because that could be a risk. So what we're going to do is we're going to disassemble the tire from the rim, and we're going to check to see if there's any punctures inside, and if we do find any, we will be doing a plug patch. So let's begin, and the way I like to do this is obviously you take the wheel tire combo off the car you're working on. You're supposed to have one of these guys. This is a valve core remover. Now, I work in a professional shop. I'm a professional mechanic. I do this for a living daily. So I have the equipment and tools needed to get this stuff done. So as you can see here, I'm removing the valve stem and it's starting to leak out the air. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and come back on the screen with you guys once I get the air out of the tire, because this is going to be really loud. Alright guys, sorry about that last clip. I'm sure you guys heard the ambulance and the fire truck going by. I'm right by a fire station, so sometimes my videos will have some noise on there. Plus I am in a live shop that works daily, so there will be noise. As my channel progresses, I'll look into microphones and things like that. I'm sure the audio is not the greatest. But like I was saying, I'm using my paint marker because I'm not able to balance this wheel. I don't have the proper tool to be able to balance it, the cone specifically in my balancer. So what I'm going to do is mark where my wheel weight goes. So there you go, mark that. And now I also want to mark the orientation that the tire was in. So I'm using yellow to mark where the wheel weight went. And then what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be marking the valve stem with my white tire marker. This is just so I can get the tire in the exact orientation that I took it off of. And since I can't balance it, I would normally balance them, but like I said, I don't have the cone for it. It's just going to have to work. The customer does know about it. He is perfectly fine with this way. He just needs to get down the road. So let me get the setup on the machine here, and I'll show you the next step. Alright guys, so the next step in this process is obviously going to break the seal on the tire. We call it breaking the bead. There's several names for it, depends on what you call it. So what I suggest and recommend in this scenario, if you are doing this on a machine like this, or even at home somehow, what I recommend is do not break the bead exactly where the tire valve stem is, or opposite of the valve stem. A lot of older vehicles used to have a band sensor that is opposite of the valve stem. You'll wind up breaking it. And if you do break the bead exactly right here where the valve stem is, you will damage or break the tire sensor off. Just a quick tip. So I'm going to go ahead and break the front seal here. Now I already broke the rear bead earlier in the video to make the tire get the air out quicker. So let me just break the front and demonstrate that for you guys right now. So basically you set up your wheel, flip your tire, and there you go. Now the front bead is broken. You do the same exact thing on the back, same thing, avoiding the opposite ends. So let me get this on the tire machine. Alright, so I went ahead and I clamped the tire down to my machine. You can see it's not going anywhere. It's really easy. There's a pedal. You basically put the tire on the machine, hit the pedal, the arms extend out. It'll basically keep the rubber moving on there. So what I like to do at this stage is I'm going to remove this front wheel weight. If you do not remove this and you try to take the tire off, you run the risk of scratching up the wheel. Now these are aluminum wheels. They do not look like they're cheap, and I definitely do not want to damage them because I do not want to pay for them. I'm not even getting paid that much to do this repair on it. So definitely you do not want to cause damage that's going to outweigh the repair. But to be honest with you, you just don't want to cause damage, period. Not recommended. That's my method. So what I do was I set up my arm here. Now I'm going to press the tire to line up the sensor stem with the head of my tire remover, simply because you don't want to risk damaging the sensor. You start off in this position, then you take your bar and you essentially put it in the tire. Now what I like to do is push on the opposite, give it a little leverage, and basically pull the tire over the head. Now this has a very, very high wheel here. Normally this would be straight, and you start rotating it, but we'll go a little sideways. I do have a little protector to help keep the wheel from being damaged in this case. So let's go ahead and spin it. Maybe a little loud, but you'll see the process. So I'm going to start right now. So we got the top part off the wheel. So what we're going to do now is line up the valve stem again. When you're removing it, you always want to line it up with your duck head or tire remover head, whatever you want to call it. And then what you're going to do is stick the tire tool back in there. You're going to want to gently lift up on the tire. Now make sure you got your little sleeve here to protect the rim. And what you're going to want to do is basically the same thing. Now I'm having a little bit of issue on this one because again, this is not the type of rim that I normally work on. This machine isn't really equipped to do this, but I know how to get it done anyway, so I'm just going to attempt it. So this may not be the best video for producing this, but I will show you guys on another video of a regular wheel whenever I get one of those in the shop. It's just this is what we're working with today. So what I do in this scenario is I hold this down with one hand, put my foot on the lever, and then I'm just going to gently up to catch. Now, as you guys can see, so I'm going to keep attempting this a few times now because I have to get this done. And once I get the inner seal to hit the head and remove the tire, I'll be back with you guys. Alright guys, so I will admit I am a little bit camera shy. I'm new to the YouTube thing and making videos. So the first round you saw me fail miserably. As soon as I tried it the second time, I was able to get it. So basically, I got the lip over that. So what I'm going to do now is just spin the tire. And it makes a lot of noise. Don't be afraid of it. It's going to make some screeching. And it's just the rubber basically screeching, making noise. So once you do that, you want to spin it over. Lift your head here, swing it out of the way. And I'm going to get you guys in a better position. Okay guys, I'm going to have to carry you for this one. So I got the tire just on top of the rim on my tire machine. They do make holders. I don't have one, so I can't do it that way. So what I did was, now I'm going to say this with a disclaimer. This is not the best way to do this. This is just my way of doing it. It's always worked for me. Sometimes you're not going to be able to find it, but in this case we're able to find it. You can see that we have that little shiny piece. That's where the puncture is. So what we're going to want to do here is what we call an inside out patch plug. Essentially what it is we're going to drill it out, make that hole a little bit bigger, and we're going to be inserting a plug with a head that's a circular patch. Okay guys, so this is a little bit of a difficult angle to get in here. So I've got my drill with my reamer tool. Now this is a reaming tool specifically made for the type of plug that I'm using. You don't want to make the hole any bigger than you have to, but these are specific size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill from the outside in. You don't want to go crazy with this, guys. You just want to make the hole big enough. I kind of go straight and then just kind of oval it a little bit just to get any of that metal out of there because the tire does have a metal structure on the inside, the band. So just give me a second, let me get this drilled out, and I'll show you guys the next step. Okay guys, so you guys can probably see right up here, I went ahead, I drilled my hole out. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take my angle die grinder here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to scuff up the surface inside the tire. Now this is going to be very loud. If you're wearing headphones, you may want to try to mute it, and I won't show you the whole process. I'll just kind of give you a glimpse. So just follow me here. It's going to get kind of loud, so cover your ears, guys. So as you guys do this, I do want to remind you, if you are using this method, you don't want to go crazy and get to the bare metal. All you're trying to do is scuff the area up to get rid of like this uneven edge line up here. So what we're really doing is just cleaning up the area, get fresh rubber, and just taking down like these little seams that the tire has from when it was made. So now in this step, what we're gonna do is I have a tool. It's kind of like a scraper. It's this thing. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna scrape the area up just to get any extra material that may be left on there. So now that we scuffed up that area, what we're gonna do is take some rubber prep. I use this product on a blue shop rag, and we're just gonna clean up our area. So all you want to do now, you don't want to go crazy with this stuff. You just want to get this area nice and clean. Make sure there's no contaminants left on there. So once you do all that, now I'm just going to show you the rag. A lot of people think, well, it's inside the tire. There's not really any dirt in there. Well, you'd be surprised. I mean, look at that. So I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to add some more. We're just going to make sure we get a thorough cleaning. Now, you want to let this stuff dry. It It should dry up fairly quick, but if you use too much of it, it will stay on there. You got to give it a little bit extra time. So now you guys can see that our area is prepped and cleaned, and we're ready for the next stage. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to lay down some rubber cement, just so we get a nice surface in here. What I like to do is I put it in there. Make sure you get the area. I like to go a little bit above the area that I'm repairing. So get a nice good coating of it in there now. As you can see, it did make a little bit of a mess. It is the inside of the tire, but you just want to space that out over there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let that dry. Alright guys, so now once our area is finally dried, what you want to do is grab your plug patch. You want to remove the tape, and then what we're going to do is be careful not to touch the gray areas, only the black portion. When you handle it, you're going to want to stick it from the inside out. Okay, now on the other end, you're going to pull using a pair of cutters. So I went ahead and I pulled my patch through. So now the next step in this process is you're going to want to get your, I call this the roller tool, I don't know the exact name, or stitcher, I believe is what it's called. So we're just going to go ahead and start from the middle going outward, and we're just going to stitch it up just to get the air bubbles out. We're trying to get as much surface area in here. So you want to do this going from a lot of different angles just to make sure it's in there. And once you do that, the little thing that I do is when you cut the stem off, it has a little bit of metal portion where you can basically take the other end of the plug patch and just pull up and be able to remove the plastic. Now you got to remove all this plastic. It can be a little bit difficult. If a little bit remains, it's not really the worst thing, but I like to remove it all because I do like to layer this patch. So what I'm going to do next is take my stitcher tool again. I'm just going to run it over one more time, make sure my edges are nicely done. And now to this, I like to take some of my rubber cement. Now most people would just stop at this stage. I like to go a little further just to be secure. So I put some of this on top, get it really good, and now we're gonna let that dry. Alright guys, so we repaired our tire, so now I'm gonna focus on the rim. A lot of wheels usually have a lot of corrosion here now. This car is only a couple months old, so it's not surprising that this isn't corroded. If this does have corrosion on it, what you want to do is basically take something and clean it up, like a wire brush or something. Just you want to get it nice and flat. You don't want to have any rust or any pitting or anything like that. So this is a really good example of something when it's brand new. I would like to show you guys one day something that is really corroded, and if one ever comes into the shop, I'll make a video of it. But for right now, this is pretty clean. So what I like to do is I just take a rag and I just put a little bit of cleaner on there. I sprayed it on there previously, and I just go around and I make sure I just wipe up my surfaces. Now you want to wipe up your top and your bottom. You got two seals there. And now, as a little bit of extra precaution, what I like to do is I take my bead sealer, and what you want to do is just put a nice little coating of it. This will help seal the tire. You just kind of run it all the way around. Now you don't gotta go crazy with this stuff and goop it. Definitely help with the sealing. In case there are any imperfections. This thing is pretty new. This thing's only been on the road for so I just did the back portion of it. What I'm gonna do is also do the top portion really quick. And I used my bead sealer on the top bead and the bottom bead. It's had a little bit of time to settle down, so it starts kind of dripping and it starts going downward. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take my tire. Now we marked our tire, which way we took it off, so we know which way to face it. It's always important to mark it. Now sometimes you'll see like the back side will be very dirty because the side doesn't get clean, and usually the other side or opposite will be nice and clean. But we marked it so we know which way to put it on. You can also verify and check to make sure that the tire doesn't have any sort of rotation or side facing out. Most tires can be directional. You always want to keep in mind and pay attention to that. I didn't mention that at the beginning because I knew this one wasn't, but now that I think about it, that is one of the first things that you should check. If you mark the tire so you know which one the outside is, usually you're pretty much golden, but you never know. What if the previous guy didn't install it right and you're putting it on backwards too? So just always helps to take a look. So what I do next is taking my tire lube, and you just gently want to put some lube on here. You don't really have to go crazy. I like to get the upper seal here, and do that on the back as well. I don't know how well this picks up on the camera, guys, but just you want to have some lube not to go in with the tire and rip it. So next you're going to lay it down, and what we're going to do is we're going to position the sensor. If you're looking at it from my perspective facing from you, you're going to want to place it at around 10 o'clock, basically. So if this arm sits at 5 o'clock, you're going to want your sensor at 10 o'clock. That way, as the tire machine puts the tire on, your sensor gets enveloped and falls in, so that way there's no risk of you hitting it. So, since we have that set up, we're going to unlock our position, and we're going to go ahead and put on our tire. This one is a little bit heavy, so let's see if she fights it. So that's typically the easy step, the first one. Set it up as close as I can. So once I'm happy, I'm going to go ahead and now give it a little bit of hit. I don't suggest doing that with your hand. I'm just I guess. So when you have a big wheel like this, it's pretty easy to move it on the rim. If you get a low pro tire, it's going to be very difficult to try to line up this. I just lined it up so I can get as close as possible, and then I can always fine tune it here. So that's how I do it. If it's a low pro tire, you got to get it pretty dead on. But again, I don't do this method very often. This is just, when I can't balance it. Like I said earlier, always mention it to your customer. Don't do this and not tell your customer. That's not fair. And also, the more they know, the better for them, you and them. Alright guys, so I have you guys set up in a good position, hopefully. So I always like to face the valve stem opposite of me, and I'm going to go ahead and hook this up. Now I do not have my valve core set up in here yet. What I'm trying to do now is just get some minimal air in here so I can make the bead pop on. So let's go ahead and do that. It might be kind of loud, so again, if you're wearing headphones, you may want to cover your ears. As you guys just heard, it popped the bead on, so that tells me the tire is secure on the rim. Alright guys, so I got about 40 psi in the tire right now. That's where my machine pretty much maxes out. Plus, you don't want to just pump it to 80 on the tire machine. You want to have it on the car. So what we're going to do now this is going to get loud. Oops, there you go. See, sorry about that guys. So what we're going to do is basically put the valve core on the tool, and we're going to remove this. Now it's going to get loud, so I apologize in advance. Alright guys, so now I have you guys positioned where we did the repair. I went ahead and I cut off the remaining stem of it, just made it nice and flush with a knife. Now this is my repair area. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to spray my tire checker fluid. Now I buy a specialized fluid for this. This stuff will bubble up really quick. If you guys don't have the means to go get this or can't find it, you could just use some dish soap and a little bit of water, and the same thing will happen. Basically, you just want to put it on there, and you want to wait and see if you get any bubbles. Now this stuff creates some major bubbles. If this thing was leaking right now, we would have a pretty big bubble blowing our way. But just for the heck of it, as I like to say, let's go ahead and just spray it. And I'm gonna let this sit about 5 minutes or so, see what it does, and if it doesn't leak, it's gonna go back on the car. Alright guys, so I did my checks, nothing is leaking. Now if you remember, we marked our tire here on the valve stem, and we also put 2 marks on the outer part of the weight for the outside. So what I'm going to do now, like I said, since I can't balance this tire and I got everything to close to where it was, and the customer will be taking it to another place to get it balanced out. So what we're going to do is just put the weight back into where we made the marks. So that pretty much wraps up how to do a tire plug. I know there was a little bit more information on this video than there normally is. I'll probably do another demonstration on another tire of how to remove it and balance it and do everything. It's just this is all I had come into the shop. I basically make videos depending on what comes into the shop. I don't really get to pick and choose what comes in. I just shoot whatever comes in. So I'll catch you guys on the next video. Hope you enjoyed, and don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Help me grow my channel. That would be much appreciated because I wouldn't be doing this without you guys.